Keep it simple and practical. This is our sixth guiding principle. You may have heard the acronym KISS or KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Well, that's really what we're talking about here. When we're talking about keeping it simple, I want you to think with the end in mind. We call this outcome-based thinking. By starting with what the outcome is, you can then back your way into all of the different steps you're going to need to achieve to be able to get from the input to the outcome you desire. So we want to use outcome-based thinking to produce practical solutions which are going to deliver valuable outcomes while using the minimum number of steps. Now to do this, we have to go back to our fifth guiding principle though, and think of things with a holistic view of the organization's work in mind. If I don't understand end-to-end how the organization functions, I can't get a simple and practical process that's going to be working for our services. Now, when I first start creating a process or a service, I want to start with an uncomplicated approach. We can always add more to it later, but we want to start out with the fewest amount of steps because that means that's less steps that can break and it's less development that we have to put up in the front side of it to see if it's actually going to work for us. Now, as we go through and we develop our approach, I want you to build it for the most common scenarios first. You don't want to try to produce a solution for every single exception. For example, let's say that you're running the service desk at your organization. You are running the entire incident management front end for that company. As people make a phone call in and they tell you about their problems, you're going to see if it matches one of three categories. The first category might be something like a password reset. The second one might be that their computer doesn't boot up. And the third one might be that their computer doesn't have network access. You might create procedures for each of those three most common situations. But not every call is going to be one of those three. You might have some that fall into the fourth category, meaning something else. Well, I don't want you to produce a solution for every single something else. Instead, just create this fourth bucket that says, if somebody's calling for one of these other things, then it goes into the manual process. And that's when we're going to have a human take control and do something about it. Whereas those first three, we might end up getting it simple, making sure it's practical, and then automating that solution. Now, by doing this, we can be mindful of how we're going to complete the objectives and the outcomes that we desire. This is the whole benefit of keeping it simple. By starting easy, you can get quick wins, you can ensure value, and the simplicity is really the ultimate sophistication. By doing fewer things, you can do them really well and really fast. And for that small amount of things that doesn't fit into the major three categories, you can then focus your team's dedicated time to those by using skilled labor. This is going to respect the time of the people involved. For example, going back to password resets, when I was running a large service desk for an organization of 10 to 15,000 users, about 90% of our phone calls was because people needed to reset their password. So when we created an automated way to do that and we simplified that process, it was better for them, it gave them more value, it got them back to work quicker, and more importantly, it freed up 90% of my labor because they weren't taking phone calls from people trying to reset their password. Instead, I could take those people and dedicate them to the other problems, the hard problems that needed their assistance. So, by keeping it simple, it makes things easier to understand, more likely to be adopted, and it really is the best route to achieving those quick wins and getting people to adopt what you're doing.